محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على मजलूम कहते थे सकीना से ए बीबी, शहे मजलूम कहते थे सकीना से ए बीबी, हमारी और तुम्हारी दुआ है ऐसी है जान सकीना जान सकीना सकीना कुर्बान सकीना जान सकीना जान सकीना जान तेरी मेरी मुसीबत है सकीना एक ही जैसी, छुरी गर्दन पे मेरे थी तेरे गर्दन में है रस्सी, मैं नेज़े पर चला हूँ तू कांटों पे ए बीबी, सर से जारी कानों जारी, तमाचे तेरे चेहरे पर ले जा रहे, तमाचे तेरे चेहरे पर लगाए जा रहे हैं, यहाँ पे हम पत्थर ही खाए है जान सकीना जान सकीना जान बाबा कुर्बान जान सकीना जान सकीना जान बाबा कुर्बान। सितम तुझ पर बिदाते हैं, सितम मुझ पर बिदाते हैं, यत को कहते हैं मुझे भी बुलाते हैं, सीना के पास से जालिम जो नाके लेके जाते हैं, तुझे भी आजमाते हैं मुझे भी आजमाते हैं, बहुत नज़दीक अजब सी दूरियां हैं, बड़ी मजबूरियां ये बड़ी मजबूरियां है जान सकीना जान सकीना सकीना बाबा कुर्बान जान सकीना जान सकीना सकीना जान बाबा कुर्बान। तमाचे तूने खाए हैं है पत्थर खाए मैंने भी, तेरे तार है नीचे मेरा चेहरा हुआ जख्मी, कई दिन का है मैं प्यासा कहीं दिन की है तू प्यासी, गला है खुश भी लगे मेरी है सूखी, हमारे दर्द को समझे कोई एक आश बीबी, दर्द को समझे कोई एक आश बीबी, मैं लाशा हूँ के जिंदा हूँ तू जिंदा लाश बीबी है जान सकीना जान सकीना जान सकीना जान बाबा कुर्बान सकीना जान सकीना जान सकीना जान बाबा कुर्बान। असीरे जुल्म है तू भी, असीर हूँ मैं हूँ सरे मकत, तू है जिंदान में कैदी। यहाँ जिंदान की वहाँ मैदान की गर्मी, यहाँ सोई नहीं तू भी, वहाँ नहीं मैं भी। कभी तू चैन से सीने पे सो जाती थी मेरे, कभी तू चैन से सीने पे सो जाती थी मेरे। मेरा सर आज दिली सीने पे तेरे है जान, सकीना जान, सकीना जान बाबा कुर्बान। जान जान सकीना जान, सकीना जान बाबा कुर्बान। मोहम्मद मोहम्मद सलवात।
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كيف وإن يظهروا عليكم لا يرقبوا فيكم إلا ولا ذمة، يرضونكم بأفواههم وتأبى قلوبهم وأكثرهم فاسقون. اشتروا بآيات الله ثمنا قليلا فصدوا عن سبيله، إنهم ساء ما كانوا يعملون. لا يرقب.
إني لأستصغر قدرك. O Yazid, I find you insignificant. لأستصغر قدرك. Your value is nothing in my eyes. This is how the mission of Karbala was kept alive. It wasn't just a matter of Hazrat Zainab being patient in this journey. In fact, if you look at Kufa, the people of Kufa that had heard the sermons of our first Imam, when they heard the sermons of Bibi Zainab alayhi salam, they said that it was as if this lady was speaking with the tongue of our first Imam. It's as if the voice and the words of Imam Ali alayhi salam are alive in Kufa again. This is how this holy lady spoke. وَأَسْتَعْظِمُ تَقْرِيعَكَ وَأَسْتَكْثِرُ تَوْبِيخَكَ. I reprimand you a lot for what you've done. This is how this mission was kept alive. But then the Holy Lady wants to show me and you that I have the strength, and this is divine strength, but know that what we've been through is not easy. لَكِنَّ الْعُيُونَ عَبْرًا, but know that our eyes are tearing. وَالصُّدُورُ حَرًّا, and our hearts are burning with pain. In this situation, Bibi Zainab is teaching us these lessons. She goes on to speak until she comes to this point. We've heard this line, but let's picture it in the scene and put ourselves in the courtyard of Yazid and see how this is happening. فَإِلَى اللَّهِ الْمُشْتَكَى, I complain to Allah, وَعَلَيْهِ الْمُعَوَّلِ, but I lean upon Him. Now what's the result of Bibi Zainab alayhi salam leaning upon Allah and trusting in Allah? فَكِدْ كَيْدَكَ, O Yazid, you've done everything, but O Yazid, plot further whatever plot you want to have. وَاسْعَ سَعْيَكَ, try and strive as hard as you want to strive. وَنَاصِبْ جُهْدَكَ, put all of your energy into doing what you want to do. But O Yazid, know one thing. فَوَاللَّهِ لَا تَمْحُوا ذِكْرَنَا, by Allah, you will never be able to get rid of our remembrance. This is a lady of strength. This is how Bibi Zainab stood in Sham. Just imagine the situation. Just imagine what's going on around her. But this is how she speaks. These are role models for us. These are people that in every step of their life, every step of this journey, we must take lessons from. وَلَا تُمِيتَ وَحْيَنَا وَلَا تُدْرِكُ أَمَدَنَا, you will never be able to get rid of the revelation. One of Yazid's goal was to get rid of Islam completely. You will never be able to do such a thing. And how did this remembrance stay alive? How did Bibi Zainab call this sentence out? It's because of their efforts. Otherwise, was it just for Karbala, everything would have buried and history would have been written as a political battle between two people, and nobody would ever know what happened in Karbala. But these caravan, when we say their jihad began, their jihad was not a jihad to just bear with the circumstances. Their jihad was to spread the message. Their jihad was to keep the battle alive. And that's how it's reached us today. The one lesson that I want to speak about today from this caravan that moved from Karbala to Kufa onto Sham is a subject that, to understand better, we need to take a step back first. If we take a step back and analyze our lives, one of the issues that we are facing, and as I said, we need to take a step back. We need to come out of our day-to-day worries, take a step back and analyze what's going on in the world, what's going on in our country, and what's going on in our community. when they see another person that they're not familiar with from the opposite gender, they begin to shake. They're not able to speak properly. This is something that's a weakness. The problem lies in the explanation of modesty, of haya, of iffa. When we come to the Islamic explanation of modesty, what does it mean? Modesty is not a sign of weakness, nor is it something that's between weakness and strength. Modesty is pure strength. What do I mean by this? And to explain this, inshallah, we'll travel to Sham and look at real modesty in Sham and in Medina and in other places. Modesty means, if you want to summarize it, modesty means that a person who knows their value doesn't expose themselves in a place where it's not suitable. This is what modesty means. Modesty means that a person who cares for themselves. Now understand that modesty doesn't come from weakness. In fact, it stems from strength. It stems from your value and worth that you acknowledge for yourself. You see yourself as such a person that such a situation or such talk or such dress is below me, is not befitting for me. This is what modesty means. The same speech, now let's go to Sham. The same speech that I read for you, the few lines of a very lengthy speech. Some people come and say that, look, Bibi Zainab alayhi salam is now speaking. That means that we must go out and speak. But let's read the whole speech. If you see the first sentence before the lines that we read, Bibi Zainab alayhi salam says, وَلَئِن جَرَّتْ عَلَيَّ الدَّوَاهِي مُخَاطَبَتَكَ. It's so sad, if I want to paraphrase it in my words. It's so sad that times have come to such a situation that I must speak in front of a person like you, Yazid. This is true modesty. Bibi Zainab alayhi salam is telling Yazid that, Yazid, I don't want to even address you. You are such a person. And that's why you find until the day of Ashur, Bibi Zainab alayhi salam that has speeches like her father. Where are her speeches? When the Imam is there to speak, she doesn't speak. She lets the Imam speak. It's his position. But in Sham, apart from our holy Imam speaking, because Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, please recite a salawat. He also has a speech, but you see multiple women and children speaking because of the mission. The mission must be kept alive. That's why Bibi Zainab alayhi salam says, وَلَئِن جَرَّتْ عَلَيَّ الدَّوَاهِ مُخَاطَبَتَكَ. And then, after that, does she speak with shyness, with weakness? No. Look at how she speaks. She speaks in a way that it's narrated that when she wanted to speak, she didn't even have to tell the people to be quiet. She signaled, and everyone became quiet. Even Yazid could not interrupt her speech. Sometimes we think that when these speeches are being delivered, Yazid told Bibi Zainab alayhi salam that please climb on the pulpit or stand in a place and speak. No, these people, the caravan, were seated as they are. Bibi Zainab stood up and started speaking. In certain speeches, Yazid tried to stop them. Hazrat Fatima Salamullahi alayha used by people, and they say that look, she came out and spoke. This means that it's correct and it's suitable and befitting to come out and speak. But if you look at the narration again, you see a very different story. لَاثَتْ خِمَارَهَا عَلَى رَأْسِهَا. It's mentioned that Bibi Fatima alayhi salam, recite a salawat. Above the covering that she had, she placed another covering around her face. And she walked in a style that is pure modesty in her walk. And she entered the place where she must speak, And again, when she began speaking, everyone began crying. They were affected by her words. You're seeing what modesty really does. This is the result of modesty, that when a person speaks, it has an effect. The words and the concepts and the meanings are being paid attention to, not something else. Sometimes people think that when they go for a speech, they must dress in a way that calls people towards looking at them. But look at Hazrat Zahra alayhi salam, the opposite. She dresses in a way that people don't focus on how she looks, but rather what she's saying. This is what modesty does. Modesty changes the focus. Now just picture that in our society. Again, when you go back to Kufa, you find Bibi Kulthum alayhi salam, when she does her speech, it's narrated, خطبت كلثوم بنت علي من وراء كلة. She spoke from behind a covering. There was a cloth placed and she spoke from behind the cloth. These are our role models. Now, often when it comes to the discussion of modesty, we address our dear sisters and mothers. But in reality, if you look at the hadith and ayat of modesty, it addresses men and women alike. In fact, some of the ayat address men stronger than it does to women, showing us that modesty is a concept that's common. Everyone must have modesty. If you look at this ayah of the Holy Quran, Surah An-Nur, verse number 30, a very important ayah, an ayah that we all must memorize, not the words of, acting upon in our lives. قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, tell the believers, يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ, that they are careful of what they look at. How applicable is this to our lives today? Be careful of what you look at. Some people, when they say lower your gaze, they think that they must walk looking like this in the streets. It's not a literal meaning. It means that have modesty, means that by choice, be careful of what you're looking at. Just to get this concept in a little better, there's a short anecdote one of my teachers mentioned once, I want to share, that he said that sometimes when somebody calls you yourself, they call you, and you're not looking at them, but they call you in a way that's not a suitable name. They call you with a bad tone or unsuitable words. He says, if really you're a person of value, don't turn around. Because it's not befitting for you to even reply such a call. Modesty has the same concept. As a believer, looking at certain things and not being careful of our eyes is not suitable for us. This is what the Holy Quran is teaching us. Where am I saying this from? The continuation of the verse. ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ. Allah is saying, this is more pure for you, O mu'mineen. I'm not trying to make a rule for you that's just to trouble you. This, if you want to live a pure life, you must live a life like this. Another Quranic example of modesty for men, you look at the story of Prophet Musa. Prophet Musa, sometimes, again, we don't look at the context of his whole story. But Prophet Musa, when he gave water, I'm sure we're familiar with the story, there were two daughters of Prophet Shu'aib that came to get water. They wouldn't go forward to get water. Prophet Musa stepped forward, got the water for them, gave them the animals, and ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ. The Quran says this is Prophet Musa in a situation where he's got nothing. He's left Fir'aun, he's run away in a state that he has nothing with him, no possessions, nobody, no companion, no support. And over here, he's just done a favor. Now, naturally, if you've done a favor, you say, okay, I did one thing for you, you do something back for me. But he turns, ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ, and he calls out to Allah, إِنِّي بِمَا أَنزَلْتَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَقِيرٍ. Oh Allah, I'm needy, but towards you, not towards anyone else. And this is where Prophet Shu'aib sends back the daughter and says that, bring this man to me. Now, you see the Holy Quran showing this beautiful interaction. There is interaction. The people that say that modesty means that there's no interaction, a person cannot speak to the opposite gender, they've not read the Holy Quran. There is interaction, but it must be in the right way. تمشي على استحياء. The daughter of Prophet Shu'aib, when she comes, she's walking. Imagine, would you ever, when you want to bring an adjective for walking, can you ever bring an adjective that she's walking in a manner that's modest? Her walk is calling out modesty. Forget her words and her actions. Her walk, the way she's walking. And Prophet Musa, in return, when he goes to Prophet Shu'aib, he tells her that I will walk in front, you walk behind, showing modesty. These are our examples. These are the Quranic examples that we have. The emphasis in the Holy Quran for men is to be extra careful about what they are looking at. The Holy Quran also speaks to women in the next ayah. Modesty is for both. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. Women must also be careful of what they are looking at. وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ. But the Quran says there's also a second instruction over here. The second instruction is that they must be careful about the way that they present themselves in society. Now please don't misunderstand this. This isn't Quran trying to say that women must be in a state that they are oppressed, that they are troubled, that they are suppressed. It's quite the contrary. The Holy Quran is saying that if you want to be pure, if you want to live a life that fits you, you must be careful of how you dress. You must be careful of how you present yourself in society. And if we pay attention to this, sometimes these topics have become hard to speak about and listen to. But sometimes we need to think about these topics. If we start thinking, we'll find that if we're able to observe these simple instructions of Islam, the amount of effect we'd see in our society is immense. Very simple instructions that the Holy Quran puts in front of us. One side point over here, sometimes when our dear sisters, our mothers are told that they must be careful of the way that they present themselves in society, they feel that you are trying to say that whatever happens is the fault of the women. Again, this is an un-Islamic concept. Where did Islam ever say this? Islam says the sin is the fault of the sinner, straight up. But why are you presenting yourself in society that's not befitting for you, that's not suitable for you? We have to present ourselves in society the way our role models presented themselves in society. And we spoke about our role models. So this is a very important point that we shouldn't confuse and say that now this is the fault of the women. Islam never says this. But Islam says that let's make society in such a way that we avoid sins like this. We avoid crimes like this. We're able to preempt these issues before they come. But unfortunately, you see societies, and our community is not an exception. Inshallah, with the love of Imam Hussein and Bibi Zainab, inshallah, we're able to keep ourselves strong. But you see the influence coming in. And this is causing issues in society. You see a lack of modesty in the men, you see a lack of modesty in the women, and this is breaking apart our families. To conclude, I want to show you 3 versions of modesty, and inshallah we'll conclude with the correct one and give some practical examples, inshallah. One is a summary of everything we've spoken about. One model of modesty is a model that says that everyone should be out there in society in every way. There's no need to be careful of the way that you dress, the way that you speak, the interactions that you have. No need for this. Now, this is against the model of the Ahlul Bayt. If we lived a life like this, if our societies look like this, we would not be able to uphold the values that the women and children are upholding right now in Kufa and Sham. If there are real role models, then you must uphold the values that they upheld. So this is a wrong understanding. The other understanding is that anywhere there is any interaction, at any level, it must be stopped and you must stop yourself. Again, this is un-Islamic. Islam says there must be the correct model of interaction in society. Just let's go back to Prophet Musa's discussion for a second. Prophet Musa is a person that has no possessions, physical possessions, no company. This woman is also a woman according to the Quran, and what happens in the following events, that is not married. But you see the communication between them is very respectful. Multiple conversations happen. Prophet Musa steps forward, let me help you. They go back to the father. The father sends her back to call Prophet Musa. Again, she speaks to the father, Ya abat ista'jir. She suggests to the father, the communication is there. There's nothing wrong with communication. But it must be in the right manner. That's why the third model of modesty shows the beauty of Islam. A lot of concepts that we have are vague concepts. They say, okay, not this extreme, not this extreme. But where do you draw the line? The line is drawn by Islam. Islam tells us that in interaction with the opposite gender, this is the red line. This is halal, this is haram. Stick to this, you'll be a modest person. Modesty means abiding by these guidelines set by Allah. This is the beauty of our religion. This is a practical religion. Not a religion that says, oh, let's have modesty, and then there's no practical instruction. What am I supposed to do? In my life, right? This is the questions that we get in my life. I'm at a workplace. Is it correct if I interact like this or not? At school, interact like this or not? With my cousins, with my distant relatives. These are real questions. If we want to come and give a speech and leave and say modesty, modesty, it's not going to help anyone in life. This is the beauty of Islam, a practical religion that comes and draws the line and says, this is correct, this is incorrect. Now, what are these lines? The key when it comes to modesty is that we have to keep ourselves away from haram. These haram are defined for us. Inshallah, if we get a chance, we can refer to the rulings because this is a discussion that's lengthy, but I'm going to mention the practical points. The rulings you can refer, inshallah. It's not fair if there's no homework over here. There must be some initiative, inshallah, from everyone, inshallah. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The key is that when there's a haram interaction happening, we must avoid it. When it's allowed, then that's a place that we can be there, and in times we must be there. This is what Islam is trying to tell us, that we must be careful of ourselves when it comes to haram. Now, where can these haram come up? Let's speak practical. And each of these categories that I mentioned, as I said, has its own rules. If anyone is interested, inshallah, we can speak even later if we get a chance. I'm available at any point. But because some of the rulings will be lengthy, some also cannot be discussed at this level, I will mention the topics, and then inshallah, we can leave this, as I said, for homework. One is the way that we dress. Islam has rulings for men and women on how to dress. If we want to have haya, one of the points of haya is the way that we dress. This is a wajib. This is not something that we say, chale, josu sutase. No, ma chale nathi. This is wajib. This is not a place that we can say, okay, it's all right. Dressing. 2, communicating, speaking with the opposite gender. Again, this is a place that Islam has clear guidelines. If there's a fear of falling into sin in any communication, a person must avoid. What does this mean? Does this mean that I have to be rude? Does this mean in my interactions I come across as a person that they say that no, of course not. It doesn't mean rude, but it means a person knows their value, knows their boundaries, knows their limits. This is modesty. 2, in talking. 3, a form of talking that unfortunately we don't consider talking. This is the secret talking called chatting. Modesty is not only for talking in person, it's for talking in any form. This also has the same laws, and it's haram. If a person crosses the boundaries, it's haram. Not any type of communication. I explained that communication that's correct is not a problem. But if it crosses boundaries, it becomes haram. Commenting, not only chatting, commenting. A person puts a comment on a photo, on a story, on a status, on a. Even liking. if it's done in a haram way, can be something that's a problem. Now we have to think about this. We have to find, what are my boundaries? What are my limits? What is haram, what isn't? If it's not haram, then alhamdulillah, we continue. If it is haram, we must act based on modesty over here. Physical contact, this is something that's now becoming more and more common in the workplace, at school. Physical contact, modesty, that Islam says has a limit. You must observe, you must abide by these limits. These are the practical places that sins can come up. If we really, and we began with this, if we really want to keep the mission of our holy Imam alive, then we must observe the guidelines that Islam has set for us in all of the different parts of our life. And this is one of them. And this is one that's increasingly desensitized. Over time, it's becoming something that's normalized. We have to be aware of this. We have to be careful of this. As youth, we must be careful. As parents, we must be careful. Sometimes parents interact with people that are na mahram in such a manner that when the children see, they see that, okay, this is the way to interact. My parents are interacting like this, means that this must be the way to interact. As youth, as parents, everyone must be careful of the way that we interact. We pray to Allah that we get a chance to follow all of His orders in all of the different aspects of our life, especially when it comes to modesty for men and women, young and old, in all of the different aspects of our life. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. Let's accompany this caravan as they enter the court of Yazid in Sham. It's mentioned in our narrations that this caravan was taken into the court of Yazid, وَهُمْ مُقَرَّنُونَ فِي الْحِبَالِ, and they were tied up in ropes and chains. Over here, our Imam stands up and says, أنشدك الله يا يزيد ما ظنك برسول الله لو رآنا على هذه الصفة. O Yazid, what would your state be? What would you feel if the Holy Prophet saw us in such a state, in chains and tied up in front of you? Over here it's mentioned that the head of our holy Imam was brought forward in the court of Yazid. Just imagine what's going through the heart of our Imam, what's going through the heart of Zainab alayha salam, as she sees the head of her brother placed in front of her. It's mentioned that when Hazrat Zainab saw this scene, she called out, نادت بصوت حزين يفزع القلوب. She called out in a sad tone that made the hearts burn. يا حسينا يا حبيب رسول الله يا ابن مكة ومنى. But look at this line, a very painful line. يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء Oh, the son of Fatima, how is it that I see you in such a state? Ya ibn bint al-Mustafa, the narrator mentions that everyone that was sitting there began to cry and weep loudly, until it reached a level where even the women from Yazid's family and the people close to him began to weep. Everyone, even the women and children from the caravan, began to call out and weep, seeing what they did. But I wish that this was the end of the narration, that the pain of the family ended over here. If it wasn't these days, we couldn't recite such events. Once in the presence of a mujtahid, of a marja, Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli, when he began to recite this incident that I'm going to recite, he couldn't continue reciting. His face became red. He put the cloth over his eyes and he couldn't even utter any words. Ya Allah, look at this event that happened. ثم دعا يزيد عليه اللعنة بقضيب خيزران. Yazid calls out for a stick. Oh Yazid, what are you going to do with this stick? What are you planning to do with this stick? فجعل ينكث به ثنايا الحسين. He begins to strike the teeth of our Imam with this stick. The people sitting around him call out, ويحك يا يزيد أتنكث بقضيبك ثغر الحسين ابن فاطمة. Oh Yazid, how is it that you strike the teeth of Hussein, the son of Fatima? أشهد لقد رأيت النبي يرشف ثناياه. I swear that I've seen the Holy Prophet place his lips upon his lips. ويقول أنتما سيدا شباب أهل الجنة. You are the masters or the chiefs of the youth of paradise. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.
अम्मा फिजा बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे हैं. अम्मा फिजा बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे हैं. अम्मा फिजा कैसा है ये चरागा दिल डूबे जा रहे. क्या शाम आ गया है. अम्मा फिजा बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे हैं. अम्मा फिजा बता दे मुझको जितने सर है एक सर है उनमें ऐसा, आंखें है बंद उसकी और खाक पर है गिरता। अब्बास का ये सर है तेवर बता रहे, क्या शाम आ गया है अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको आदर क्यों आ रहे अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे। होने लगी अज़ाने कैसे सरों को ढांके, बाजू बंधे हुए खून रो रही है आंखें, आंखों के खूके रास्ते खूह में नहा रहे, क्या शाम आ गया है अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे हैं। इतना चले हैं पैदल कांटों पे सारे कैदी, थक जाती चलते चलते चलती अगर जमीन भी, पैरों के आबले भी आंसू बहा रहे, क्या शाम आ गया है अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे हैं अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे हैं। नेज़े पे रो रहा है मुश्किल कुशा का बेटा, नामहरमों के लब पे आया है नाम मेरा, मुझको कनीज़ ज़ादे यूं भी बुला रहे, क्या शाम आ गया है अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे हैं। कैसा है ये जलागा दिल डूबे जा रहे, क्या शाम आ गया है अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे अम्मा फैजा, बता दे मुझको पत्थर क्यों आ रहे। ए मेरे बाबा जान हो रही है अज़ान, सर झुकाऊं कहाँ, ए मेरे बाबा जान हो रही है अज़ान, सर झुकाऊं कहाँ, मजमए आम में ए वतन बेअमान, आ गया कारवां, ए मेरे बाबा जान हाथ कानों पे है, नील गालों पे है, और निशान जो सकीना के शानों पे है। हर निशान से यही आ रही है सदा, बाबा जान, बाबा जान, ऐ मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान। सर झुकाऊं कहाँ, रुक न पाया मेरे बावफा का वो सर, नोके नेज़ा से आने लगा खाक पर। बहन को दर बदर देख कर नंगे सर, सह न पाया जवां, ऐ मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान। सर झुकाऊं कहाँ, ऐ मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान। सर झुका। सूरतुल बारकुल फातिहा। मरहूम मोहम्मद भाई नथु અને કુલ મરહૂમીન વાસ્તે એક સૂરે ફાતિહા. ભાઈઓને રિક્વેસ્ટ કરવા છે, પ્લીઝ 5 મિનિટ વાસ્તે આપણે બેસી જાય, પ્લીઝ 5 મિનિટ્સ પ્લીઝ.
उलमाए किराम, आज़ादारन हुसैन, बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, सलाम अलैकुम. દારસલામ જમાત ખૂબ જ દુઃખ અને સદમો થયો છે કે આજે આપણે અલ્હાજ મોહમ્મદભાઈ નથુના અવસાનના સમાચાર આવ્યા. મરહૂમ આપણી કોમની સેવક હતા અને આજે એને આપણે વિદાય આપીએ છીએ. દારસલામ જમાત તરફથી એમની ફેમિલીને આપણે કોન્ડોલન્સીસ આપીએ છીએ અને અલ્લાહ તાલા પાસે દુઆ કરે તે લોકોને સબર આપે. મરહૂમ મોહમ્મદ અલીભાઈ નથુ કોમને ઘણી સંસ્થાઓમાં ભોગ આપ્યા છે. મરહૂમનું જન્મ ઝાંઝીબારમાં 1946માં થયું હતું અને તે પછી તે જ્યારે મોટી ઉંમરના થયા ત્યારે દારસલામ આવ્યા રહેવા અને દારસલામ આવી અને કોમમાં એ પૂરો ભાગ લીધા હતા. આ દુનિયામાં અમુક લોકોને અલ્લાહ તાલા એક જાતનું હુનર આપે છે. મોહમ્મદભાઈ નથુ પાસે જે હુનર હતું એ સ્પોર્ટ્સમાં હતું અને લીડરશિપમાં હતું. નાની ઉંમરે ઝાંઝીબારમાં ક્રિકેટની શરૂઆત કરી અને પછી જ્યારે દારસલામ આવ્યા ત્યારે નાશી યુનિયન સ્પોર્ટ્સ ક્લબના મેમ્બર હતા અને બહુ જ સારો ભોગ આપ્યા છે ક્રિકેટના ડેવલપમેન્ટમાં. નાશી યુનિયન સ્પોર્ટ્સ ક્લબમાં કે વોલીબોલમાં એ બહુ જ ભાગ લેતા હતા અને ક્રિકેટનું જ્યારે આપણું ટુર્નામેન્ટ હતું તે ટાન્ઝાનિયન ટીમના કેપ્ટન હતા અને ટાન્ઝાનિયા સારું એ કપ લઈને પાછા આવ્યા હતા. કોમની સેવામાં મરહૂમ દારસલામ જમાતના વાઇસ પ્રેસિડેન્ટ થઈ ચૂક્યા છે અને પ્રેસિડેન્ટે થઈ ચૂક્યા છે. આફ્રિકા ફેડરેશન અને વર્લ્ડ ફેડરેશનના કાઉન્સિલર બી હતા. અને એમ જોવામાં આવે છે કે ઘણી ભાગે એની લાઈફમાં કોમને એ સેવા આપ્યા છે. મરહૂમ બહુ ડેડિકેટેડ અને ડિવોશનથી કામ કરતા. આજે હકીકતમાં આપણે કોમને સાચા હમદર્દને ગુમાવ્યા છે. મરહૂમ હંમેશા કોમની વ્યાધિ કરતા. ચાલુ મને મળતા કબ્રસ્તાનમાં જે મસ્જિદમાં તો હંમેશા મને પૂછતા કેમ જાય છે જ્યારે હું સેક્રેટરી થયો ત્યારે. અને ઘણી ભાગે મને બહુ એડવાઇસ આપતા, સારી સારી એડવાઇસ આપતા મને. તેમાં હું બહુ શુક્રગુજાર છું. આપણે અલ્લાહ તાલા પાસે દુઆ કરીએ કે એને જન્નતમાં નસીબ થાય અને 14 માસૂમીન સાથે એને જગ્યા મળે. જે કોમની સેવા એરા છે ખરેખર એ વખાણને પાત્ર છે. આપણે એમ બી દુઆ કરીએ કે એની ફેમિલીને સબર આપે. અને આજે એનું દફન કર્યા છે. પહેલી રાત છે, જુમે રાત છે. આપણે અલ્લાહ પાસે એના વાસ્તે સૂરતુલ મુબારક ફાતિહા પડીએ અને બધા મરહૂમોને યાદ કરીએ. ફાતિહા. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. أحسنت. شكرا.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. My elders, brothers, youngsters, sportsmen and volunteers, on behalf of International Union and Union Sports Club, I stand in front of you with a heavy heart to talk about a legend in Union sports and a volunteer in International Union, a personality who was part of our community and sports fabric for more than 6 decades. We all knew him as Uncle Muhammad Nattu. He was a legend cricketer who made a lot of records in the Tanzanian cricket platform. Players and his colleagues from yesteryears knew and witnessed a great batsman. He represented our country Tanzania for 15 consecutive years in the national team and captained the national side for 4 years. And of course, a legend, Union Sports Club member, player, captain, and eventual chairman. He and his teammates, some present in his funeral today, nurtured the cricket side to a champions club in 1973, and thereafter it has been Union all the way till 1992, having won 18 of the 20-year championship. His proudest achievement in cricket was, in his own words, a Tuesday evening, 16th October 1984, in Dar es Salaam, when the quadrangular tournament was won by Tanzania under my captaincy after a lapse of 19 years. Boys my age in the late 70s and early 80s all grew up idolizing him and wanted to be a good cricketer like him. He made our Union Sports Club and our community very proud. For that, I tell Uncle Muhammad Nattu, thank you for the memories. We will cherish it and you'll remain a legend in our history and our hearts. His prowess also featured in volleyball, where he teamed with his fellow teammates to also dominate volleyball in Dar es Salaam. As I said, he was a chairman of Union Sports Club, vice chairman of Jamaat, council and delegate for Africa Federation, World Federation. He passed a wealth of knowledge and was always eager to share his experiences with us, the younger members of the club. May Allah forgive him and grant him a place in Jannah with our Masooms. May Allah grant his family members sabr in this time, knowing that we all belong to Allah and surely we shall return to him. I request you all to recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhum and Kul Marhumeen. Al-Fatiha.
મરહૂમના રૂહના સાહેબ માટે આવતીકાલે નમાઝે મગરિબૈન બાદ મહેફિલ અબ્બાસમાં ઝિયારત અને ફાતિહાખાનીની ક્રિયાઓ કરવામાં આવશે. અસ્સલા અસ્સલા અસ્સલા. الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وسلم على محمد وآل محمد وبارك على محمد وآل محمد وارحم محمدا وآل محمد كأفضل ما صليت وسلمت وباركت وترحمت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وصل على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين والشهداء والصديقين وجميع عباد الله الصالحين الله أكبر اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير الله أكبر اللهم إنا هذا عبدك وابن عبدك وابن أمتك نزل بك وأنت خير منزول به اللهم إنا لا نعلم منه إلا خيرا وأنت أعلم به منا اللهم إن كان محسنا فزد في إحسانه وإن كان مسيئا فتجاوز عنه واغفر له اللهم اجعله عندك في أعلى عليين واخلف على أهله في الغابرين وارحمه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين الله أكبر ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بحق محمد وآله الأطهار فاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وأخيك العباس وأختيك زينب وأم كلثوم وبنتك سكينة ورقية السلام عليكم يا أئمة الهدى من ولد الحسين علي ومحمد وجعفر وموسى وعلي ومحمد وعلي والحسن والخلف الصالح عليهم السلام السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي الأمان والأمان والأمان من فتنة الزمان السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته
Bismillah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. Aliyun waliyullah. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. محمد رسول الله. علي